Hello, everyone. This is Russell Clay here. We are providing you the CFL lineup picks this week, as we had the last 3 weeks. I have some written content on the site. You should definitely check that out. And I think we got an exciting slate for us. Things are starting to solidify a little bit, starting to see some players fall into some roles, some injuries opening up some value. So we're going to get into that and quite a bit more here. So 4-game slate. It's actually a Wednesday and Friday instead of the normal Thursday and Saturday. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Make sure to get your lineups in tonight. And as well, make sure you're playing a bunch of formats. I mean, I think you can throw in quite a few tournament lineups this week. So keep that in mind as well. Let's get into the first game here. Ottawa and Toronto, over under a 53. Toronto's favored by 1 at home. In terms of that, I think we're starting to look at this Trevor Harris, Chris Williams grouping here and really start to value the high floor they provide for us. Obviously, Williams been going bonkers, above 130 receiving yards each week of the season, 3 touchdowns last week. I mean, Trevor Harris has thrown 3 touchdowns every week that he's been playing here in those first 3 games. Obviously, that first game, spot start duty, but he's really thrived in that role. I expect them to continue rolling here. They are expensive, 21-1 total combined. So, I mean, it is an expensive stack, but at the same time in cash, I think there are some cheap value ways to get around the rest of the positions there. So I'm firing them off as a pretty solid cash option. Chris Williams is just automatic. I can understand wanting to fade Trevor Harris at his price, but Chris Williams, not a fade in cash, even if they double him or whatever. He's just too fast, getting open deep, getting open underneath. He's just the complete package for what you're looking at in CFL. So 11K, fire away. Pretty simple. In terms of the secondary options, so in cash as well, Brad Sinopoli, 7,600, has above 5 receptions and 50 receiving yards in every game, has a 100 receiving yard game, has a touchdown game. So he does have decent upside, and he does have a pretty high floor. I think if you're looking at him as sort of a value cash option, doesn't have necessarily the highest upside in his range for receivers, but I think he can be that third option that you kind of rely on in cash if you do play a Chris Williams to sort of solidify getting that production from the passing game. So I'm firing away with him as well, especially in cash. And that's pretty much the core of the Ottawa offense that I'm looking at there. In terms of Toronto, I really like Brandon Whitaker at 6,100. It seems like he's sort of running into a feature role here a little bit. I mean, in terms of the projected point total, you'd figure him to get plenty of opportunity. He's reasonably priced, kind of like a lot of these running backs. He's on a high scoring game here. So I really think we can look at him in a tournament, obviously not in cash game territory, but for 6,100, you're looking at a pretty decent receiving option here. So fire away in tournaments, maybe if you're making multiple shares, but yeah, I really think Ottawa's offense is the one to target here and really using cash. Next game here, Edmonton and Winnipeg, over under a 52.5, right around 52 and 53, depending on which site you look at. Edmonton, 3-point favorites here. Obviously, Mike Riley coming off the huge game. Adarius Bowman coming off the huge game. And I really don't see much of a difference between Bowman and Chris Williams. I mentioned that last week. Obviously, Williams is not falling off. Not that I said that, but in terms of just who they are as players and where I eventually see their season-long totals sort of floating into and averaging out as, I see Bowman in that same range as Williams. He's a dominant CFL receiver, and I think he should get a shot in the NFL at some point again. But that's just me rooting for Oklahoma State wide receivers there. So anyway, beyond that, I really think that's a nice cash option, Riley and Bowman, compared to Harris and Williams. I do prefer Riley over Harris. I do prefer Williams over Bowman. So I think you can get weird there. I even think you can get weird with a Williams and Bowman and maybe punting quarterback, I think you get the two high-end, high-volume receivers in those offenses, and then maybe dive down to one of the quarterbacks I'm going to be talking about in a little bit here. But I think that's definitely in play, especially with some of the values you're looking at receiver and running back. So definitely fire away with Riley and Bowman in cash, but I prefer Bowman and Riley, or I prefer Riley at quarterback and Williams to Bowman. So keep that in mind, but at the same time, all in playing cash. So in terms of running backs, I think we can look at John White here. He's been used in both the rushing and receiving game, had 96 rushing yards and 17 attempts last week. I think he played really well just from watching a little bit of that game. It didn't look to be a total fluke that he got that production. So I expect him to get the lion's share of the touches again this week and is someone I'm firing away with in tournaments. Again, it's tough to find a lot of cash game sort of running backs with the way a lot of these offenses are structured. So another guy here in this game, I think this is a decent game to target running backs. Andrew Harris for Winnipeg, 7,600. He's had at least 17 touches in every game this year. You like that? You like that floor of touches? Obviously, touches equals production in a lot of senses. So although he hasn't scored a touchdown, I mean, he's been racking up the points. So if he does get a touchdown one of these weeks, I think that could be a huge boost in the tournament and probably set you apart. And I mean, if you're playing cash 50-50s, that could definitely boost you over that 50-50 line. So I'm definitely looking at him as sort of a nice tournament option as well. And finally, for the value in this game, I'm looking at Jace Davis. I'm not quite sure why he's 4,300. Coming off 8 receptions, 74 yards last week. So that's pretty solid. I mean, obviously only 0.5 per reception in this format, but the 74 yards you'll take. And I mean, 10 points at 4,300, that's hitting value for you. So you'll take that. If you can throw in a touchdown, obviously you're looking at a really high upside week for 4,300. And if you do go Bowman and Williams, 4,300, if you're getting 10 to 16 from Jace Davis, you're looking at a really nice core from your receivers and the beginning of your flex there. So I really like that. And I'd definitely be firing away with him in pretty much all formats. It seems pretty safe to me. Had 5 receptions in that other game, so I'm pretty high on his floor. So for 4,300, definitely good chance of hitting value there. All right, next game here, Hamilton and Winnipeg. Over under 49.5, but some interesting values compared to the first games. Obviously, I think the first 2 games are where you look for your cash options, and then I think you can sort of sneak around. As I talked about, if you're paying up for Bowman and Williams, you want to make a lineup like that. You're looking at Jeremiah Masoli, 8,900. That's a really good deal. He's probably not the best deal at quarterback. Just there's some guy hanging around there at 9,400. I think you might want to keep an eye on. But Jeremiah Masoli for hold on. Anyway, Jeremiah Masoli, 8,900. Obviously, last week had 367 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns. I think that's something we're looking at there again at 8,900 in that range. So I think we can target him, obviously playing for Hamilton. So definitely raises that floor. For 8,900, can definitely hit value with that. The next guy we're looking at here, Nick Lewis. I mean, 5,700, that is a tremendous deal, and definitely someone I'm looking at to fire away with in all formats. 15 receptions and 165 receiving yards in the last 2 weeks. He was obviously super cheap last week, and he still isn't priced up enough this week. While I don't think you can expect 100 yards again, I think he is cash game viable. And sort of like with Jace Davis, 5,700, you're really looking at a strong value there. So that's definitely what I'm looking at. For tournaments, Brendan Rutley, running back, relatively cheap. Tyrell Sutton on IR, so that's obviously a big blow to this team, and I think we can fire away with them. I think we can fire away with Rutley in tournaments. Only 5,600. sort of the guy you're looking at to really punt with, and maybe find a way to differentiate yourself in the tournament. So that's what I'm looking at there. Andy Fantutz, wide receiver 6,800. So over 7 receptions in every game so far, and a touchdown in 2 of them. I think we're really looking at a strong value here at 6,800. So that's something I'm really sold on here, and especially you can combine him with Masoli there. So I really like that. Tequan Underwood again. Okay, he wasn't perfect, but at the same time, for 4K, you're really not risking much. And again, if you do want to pay up for Bowman and Williams, which is definitely something I'm looking at, I think he's an interesting option to pair with Masoli and really maximize that upside if it does hit. So he is a vertical threat for them. Obviously didn't get any deep passes last week, but I really think they are going to come. He's going to become one of the featured receivers on that offense. I do think he's the most talented. So fire away with him. I mean, I really do think he has an upside of getting that 50-yard touchdown. So I definitely fire in with Tequan, with Masoli if you're playing him. And let's get to British Columbia and Saskatchewan. That's something I'm definitely looking at. Darian Durant, 9,400, probably the best value at quarterback this week. I think we're looking at him as the cash option at quarterback this week. So definitely fire away with that. And I think he's a really strong option, and I think you can throw in that Tequan with those 3 and really make a good lineup, or Nick Lewis or something like that. I really think there's a lot of upside with those 2 and some values. So another running back, Anthony Allen, obviously got more playing time last week. Sorry, the coffee's getting to me, guys. Whew. All right, here we go. Anthony Allen, yes. Former Georgia Tech running back, 5,900 here. So got thrust into the feature back role and played tremendously. Over 100 rushing yards on only 16 touchdowns, or 16 rushes, caught a touchdown in the receiving game. He's a pretty complete back, and I mean, it looks like he's got the opportunity again. Obviously, keep an eye on the injury status of Jeremiah Johnson, but if he's out again, 5,900 for Anthony Allen, plug him in your cash games. 2 more guys, one more running back here for you. Chris Rainey, 5,900. I mean, another week with above 150 return yards. I said last week I didn't expect that to continue. You're starting to see him crack into the lineup there. He got 2 receptions. So if that increases and he starts to get used more on offense, he could be a really, I think he's a super high upside tournament play this week, just because we don't know how much that, or if that usage is going to increase. And if it does, I mean, if you hit that week where he gets 5 receptions and then he gets 150 return yards and a touchdown, you're looking at a game changer that could win you a tournament. So I expect his role in the offense to continue. He's just returning the ball way too well right now. Maybe get him a few more rushes. If they get him up to 5 to 7 touches in a week, he's a super high upside at 5,900. So that's what I'm looking at there. It's no fluke what he's doing. So definitely like that. Sean Gore, a nice tournament wide receiver there. Not the highest upside. Obviously has 49 receiving yards in every game, at least in every game this year. You're not looking for that. But the point is he does have a solid role in that offense. And for only 5K, I think it's a worthy gamble. Not Tequan upside, not Jace Davis upside, but at the same time, I do think he has a reasonable tournament upside. So beyond, he's probably the 3rd or 4th receiver value option, but I'm still looking at him. And one more guy I'd like over him is Ricky Collins, 4,100 for Saskatchewan. He's kind of that guy you compare with Darian Durant, 4,100. Really like that value. In week 3, he hauled in 6 receptions for 115 receiving yards and a touchdown. Obviously, you like that. He didn't get priced up after that, so I think he's kind of the price inefficiency of the week. I think we can fire away with him. and he's cash tournament, whatever, whoever you're playing, you can fire him in for 4,100 and feel really confident about that. So that's kind of a basic review. If you want to check out the article, it's right there in the article page for CFL, so hopefully you'll check that out. As always, check out Daily Fantasy Cafe for all our awesome tools and content. We got some exciting NFL tools getting ready for you, so we'll be shooting those out as the football season gets closer. So I'm excited. You guys should be excited. And let's enjoy CFL for now. Thanks for tuning in, guys.